Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us. Welcome to another episode of Drumfills Kafé. Welcome to another episode of this 12th season. Thanks so much for joining us. As usual, before we begin our episode, I will ask you to go check out the TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram pages of Drumfills Kafé, to do a like, subscription, and to share those pages. We'd really, really appreciate it. Also, go check out the main webpage, drumfillscafe.com, to know all about the past seasons, interviews, editorials, all the stuff we've done in the 12th season we've existed. So go check that out, drumfillscafe.com. Forgive me, I'm coming back from a cold, but it will not stop me from inviting our next guest for tonight. My guest tonight is a graduate of Carleton University with a BMU's Jazz Performance High Honors and a minor in business. He has toured all over Canada, United States, Europe, and has been teaching and performing for over 30 years. He's a professor at Algonquin College and drum instructor now at Carleton University. He is the founder of founder of Jeff Asselin's Drum Academy, located in Ottawa, Canada, and has recently published an amazing book called The Rudimental Blueprint, The Burroughs Method, which was originally authored by our common drum teacher, Charles or Chuck Burroughs. It has been seriously modernized, revised by Jeff and Matt Savage as the editor. And to talk about all of this and so much more, please welcome the extremely friendly and just super good guy, Mr. Jeff Asselin. Hey, Jeff.
Hey, Dennis. How are you?
I'm good. Good to see you, man. It's been some time.
Too.
Yeah. Apologies for the voice. I will try my best to not break like a 12-year-old boy as I talk.
I'll do the same.
I'll pull out my Simpsons. Hello, can I get more information about the book, please? Anyways, we'll try to keep it serious because I know we can be silly. Thanks so much for joining. How you doing, man?
I'm doing really well. Thanks for having me. This is quite an honor again to make my second appearance on the show. It's great. Thank you.
You're welcome. I think besides you and Paul Wortico, you're the only second person we've had back on the show. So welcome back.
Oh, that's amazing. Thanks.
So you've been busy, my friend. I recently basically went to a clinic that you've recently did and at Dave's Drum Shop. We say hi to Dave, of course, in Ottawa, because you've been busy doing something amazing. Talk about that thing that you've done recently. What is it exactly?
Yeah, so in September, I released a book, which is called The Rudimental Blueprint, which is right here. So this was a book that was first published by our one of our drum teachers, Chuck Burroughs. Unfortunately, Chuck left us in 2019. And when he passed, he left me the rights to all of his educational material. And he had 12 unpublished books and a bunch of other educational concepts and ideologies that I've been working on. So since 2019, I've been just reworking the book, kind of modernizing it, rewriting some passages, adding a couple of my own solos, and working with Matt Savage to kind of bring it to a wider audience. So I published with Hudson Music through digital sales, and then physical sales through Amazon and through music stores and Long McQuaid's and whatnot. Yeah.
Very cool. Now, that's the brief of it, but I know that wasn't that easy to do.
No, it really wasn't.
Let's break it down before we continue. So for the Ottawa people, basically Chuck was kind of the reference in Ottawa. Let's talk about Chuck a bit, because I think some people may not know Chuck, but basically Chuck was basically the drum teacher in the Ottawa area. If you wanted to have drum lessons with someone who had actually a program and something from A to Z, basically, and you had to go see Chuck, basically.
Yeah.
And he, not only that, he was also the drum department guy at Steve's. So he had opinions.
Yes, he did.
Very strong opinions, but they were factual, and they most of the time were right. And I'll tell just this story, and this is how Chuck helped me so much. I walked into Steve's once, and I seriously had about 14 plasters on my hands. Like I had my hands were blooded. It's like somebody had dared me to juggle like knives, and I went for it or
Like
something.
whiplash.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the
And
bloody
then I
elbow. Yeah.
and I walk into Steve's as I usually do, and Chuck goes, "Hey, young man, how you doing?" I'm like, "No, no, no, no." And he looks at my hands and he goes, "What's happening there?" I'm like, "I've been drumming a lot, man. I've been doing like serious practicing." And he's like, "Really? Okay." And he gives me a pair of sticks and he goes on the pad. Says, "Go on the pad for a second." I'm like, "Okay, how do you hold them? How do you?" And I was like,
Yeah.
hammer sort of situation. He's like, "Yeah, you're not holding the sticks right." And I'm like, what is it? And then he picks up the sticks and does something super fluid, fingers and everything. And I went,
Mhm.
okay. And that's how, for me, Chuck started to like get into my head and figure out, okay, like this old guy, if you will, knows a thing or two. And yeah, that's that. I'll tell at least that story for for me. And that's how I got to know Chuck, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, I walked into Steve's getting my first drum set, which was a Pearl Export kit.
Classic.
And with another great drummer in town. His name is Steve McGrath.
Okay.
Steve, I was working with Steve, and then Chuck kind of came in and introduced himself, and that's when I first met Chuck. And then I would just go to Steve's all the time because
Yeah,
why not? There was just a bunch of drums there, drums and cymbals to try out,
exactly.
and we just chatted and really kind of had a little bit of a relationship at that time. And then I went to Carleton University and I was studying with another really good drum teacher in Montreal named Chris McCann for a couple of years. And Chris was great. Oh my God, he's such a good teacher. But I wasn't ready for Chris. I was very immature
I think we
in
both
my
had the
own
same
development.
situation where basically Chris would make me sit down and play the swing beat on the ride at 40 for like hours.
Hmm.
And I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, but I want Uzeb, I want Paul Brochu, I want
Yeah,
the Yellow
yeah,
Jackets, I want Billy Cobham. What is this ding, 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 ding? But to give him credit to Chris, whatever he taught me back then of slowing it down and hearing the spaces,
oh
I
yeah,
still use to this day. So
oh 100%.
yeah,
Yeah,
but I
yeah.
think like you, I wasn't ready for that. Yeah,
I wasn't ready,
yeah.
and so and I enjoyed my lessons with Chris because he was so
Mhm.
nice and he's so knowledgeable. And whenever he played, it was like, I would well up with tears, right? Because I'd be like, I want to sound like that.
Mhm.
And he was really like motivating and whatnot, but I couldn't really grasp what he was talking about yet because I wasn't there. I didn't have
Yeah,
that knowledge there was no bridge to look at the gap in my knowledge from where I was to where I wanted to be.
yeah.
So I kind of inquired, and I was like, well, could I take lessons with Chuck?
Mhm.
He's in town. I was driving to Montreal. He was in town, and he had availability. And the head of the program, Dr. Piper, Dr. Deidre Piper, who's amazing,
I remember
um,
this.
met with him, and she's like, yeah, let's bring him on as part of the drum set faculty. So then I started with Chuck, and it was like an eye opening experience because
Mhm.
he had such a methodology in teaching, right? So his curriculum was so laid out that everything was incremental, right? So you
Yeah.
have to do this before you do this, and then we're going to look at this, but you're not going to understand this yet, right? So he really understood. So right now I'm doing my master's in education. So
Oh, cool. Oh, pretty nice.
yeah, so I'm almost done. Oh my gosh, it's a long time.
Stick it out. Stick it out. You'll
I'm
get there.
going on year 3 right now, so I have about
Okay.
a year left. But I didn't really understand what it was at the time. But so there's an educational concept, which is what I kind of based this book off of,
Yeah,
which is
talk about that.
called
I saw that. Yeah.
yeah, which is called the constructivism approach to education.
Mhm.
And it's has to do with this a psychologist, a Russian psychologist named Lev Yevgotsky, and an amazing concept. And he had a concept of the zone of proximal development. And what that basically means is when you're looking at a student, you understand the abilities of that student. So
Mm.
you're not going to give the student something so hard that it's going to, give them cognitive overload and they're not really going to understand the concept. But you're
Mhm.
not going to give something to the student that is below their capabilities to make them unmotivated and bored. right?
Mhm,
So
mhm.
there's a certain range that you need to give curriculum to somebody to keep them going on their proximal development, right? And that person is what Yavatsky called a more knowledgeable other, right? So this concept was it's like probably 40 years old, 50 years
Okay,
old, right?
okay.
So he published a paper at Gavatsky in 1978 that had this to do with this, right? So I studied those papers a lot when I was doing a lot of essays, which I have to do another essay after we're done today. So I'm almost done.
Well, one thing at a time.
One thing at a time. So the modernization of this concept of zone of proximal development means that it doesn't necessarily have to be a physical teacher that brings you through these stages of development.
I see. Okay.
It can be something electronic, right? It can be videos. It's anything that what we call scaffoldings the learning,
Mhm.
meaning it supports the learner from point A to point B, right, all the way up to understanding how to play a simple rudimental solo, just counting it out loud at like 50 beats per minute, really nice and slow, which is like a Chris McCann, playing really slow on the ride cymbal, to playing it at the performance tempo. And that's what Chuck kind of instilled with me is this. And I don't think Chuck studied education in terms of like philosophies and epistemologies and all these different concepts within education. I think he just it was intuitive for him, on how to help a student grow from point A to point B. Well,
Yep.
this is the path. This is the
Yeah.
trajectory that you have to kind of take. And that was really instilled with me in when I first started teaching. I wanted to develop my own program. And I studied with Chuck until 2004 when I graduated at Carleton University.
Okay.
But we had a great relationship, and I would go hang out with him and stuff, and we would talk about pedagogy and we would talk about books. And I was kind of
Okay.
interested in starting writing things because I had my own ideas that I developed from other teachers that I've had, and kind of like my own unique perspective on playing drum set and things
Yep.
like that based on my experiences. And we just kept in touch, and I would go over and we would kind of hang out, and I was buying books from him and selling them to my students, which was
Okay.
something that he did with a lot of his past students to kind of get his ideas and his
Yeah,
books out
okay.
there.
Okay.
And I'd be like, Chuck, we gotta do something. We've got to like take your books to a grander audience because they're so
Yeah.
good. Like his rudimental book. And after, like when I first started studying with Chuck, I had no idea what a rudimental solo was.
No, the
And
same. Like I remember trying out solo number one. I was like, oh, what's this? Because
yeah,
I had
what
done
do,
I
what do
done
I do?
like everybody had done syncopation or maybe a bit of the sticking book, but that's about it. But to do an actual rudimental solo, I was like, ooh,
Yeah,
okay. And he made me buy those big white sticks for the rudimental
yeah,
stuff, and we would do the
yeah,
pads together and da da da. And I screw up. He'd like, well, that's okay. Let's try again. He was so patient, and he
yeah.
wouldn't judge. He was just like, okay, let's try again. Okay, that one needs a little bit more work. It's okay. Let's try another week. He was so patient and everything. And I remember when I got to him, I was so how do I say, like, so I have a French word, but it's kind of but so tight and so
Yeah,
just
yeah,
like I
yeah.
didn't know
Yeah.
in the hands and in the body and everything. And he's like, oh, you seem stressed. I'm like, well, I just been with this prof, and he said I had to do this and I had to breathe and I had to do this. So just getting to the drum set, I had like this 5-minute process, and he's like, it's
Mhm.
drums, just sit down and just
Downplay.
play.
Yeah.
And just play. And he kind of calmed me down. So like you, same thing. I went through this change of like, fun and learning and pushing me, but not being putting me down, just pushing me like, okay, let's do linear stuff. I'm like, ooh, linear stuff, what is that? And so
Mhm,
forth, so on.
mhm.
So I totally agree of what you just said about his pedagogy for sure.
Yeah, it's just so step by step. It was easy to understand. It was easy
Yeah,
to digest, but it was difficult enough to keep me wanting to
yeah,
practice
yeah,
and to go back the week after and be like, okay, I'm ready for the next thing.
yeah.
And that's what I wanted to be in a teacher is I wanted to look at a student, understand where they are, uh, tailor, my pedagogy to their needs because everybody's different. Everybody has different experiences, ever different wants and desires out of the kit, but with a fundamental pedagogy to help them get there, right? And after I was introduced to the rudimental solos, I was like, these are awesome.
Well,
And
they're
I would
musical. That's the thing. They don't sound as dry. They're actually musical.
no,
And there's stuff I don't even know that I'm playing sometimes in my fields. I'm like, oh, that comes from Chuck.
oh
That's the
yeah,
rudimental
yeah.
stuff I'm playing without even knowing it.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
the application to the drum set is such a musical, a step. But what's cool is they were, as you know, most of the solo was written for duets, right? So as a teacher,
Yeah.
I'm always looking for material that I can perform with my students, right? Because it's fun and it gets them to want to kind of step up to perform better because they're playing with somebody else. It's kind of like when you're in a band and you're playing with an amazing musician and
Yeah.
you kind of step up to the plate and you perform better than you would without that musician. It's kind of like that philosophy, which again goes back to the Vygotsky more knowledgeable other, and that's the position of a teacher helping the student perform better than they would by themselves, right? And the one thing that I missed is you and I would get together and we'd play through some of his book, doing the duets at Carlton. But like other than that, it was kind of like we during the week we were just kind of like, well, I wonder what this sounds like with the duet, right? So
Yeah, I know what you mean. But you were by
yeah,
yourself practicing in a room and going, okay, I'm hoping I'm nailing this correctly. I'm doing this, reading this correctly, and yeah, there's that. Yeah, I see what you mean. Yes.
yeah. So that's
Yeah.
why I wanted to do the videos as well.
Yeah.
So you just hit the QR codes and you can do it with the duets. You can do it with the same part to make sure you're playing it correctly. You can do it with counting. You can do it with me on a pad or me on a snare drum with dynamics and all this different types of things. Which was another level that was beyond his original scope
Yeah.
of the book when he
Yeah.
first published it. So
Yeah. For sure.
yeah,
Okay, well, let's dive into it now that we've
sure.
done some war stories of Chuck and how it made you get to there. When does before we continue, when does Matt arrive? Let's talk a bit about Matt because he kind of helped you, of course, with this book, and then
Yeah,
we'll
yeah.
dive into the some examples of the book.
Yeah, so Matt Savage is wonderful. He's been a joy to work with. He's such a nice man, and he's a killer player.
Yeah,
So I was looking at bringing the book because I'm not a rudimental player. I'm a drum set player that
mm,
just is in love with rudimental solos, right? So I don't play traditional grip. I play match grip, and I wanted to give the book more legitimacy amongst
the
the
rudimental people.
current
Yeah,
pedagogy and the other books that are out there from a rudimental perspective.
makes sense.
And I was looking at Matt because Matt published a great book with Warner years ago called "The Savage Rudimental Workshop," and it's a fabulous book. And I have the book, and I've worked through the book, and I was like, I'm going to ask Matt. And this was over the pandemic. So Chuck
Yeah.
passed in 2019,
Mhm.
and it took me a couple months to kind of figure out what I was going to do. My intent was always to publish the books, but I didn't know how. So I was actually talking to one of my really good friends. His name is Scott Atkins, and
Oh,
he
yes,
works
yes, yes.
for
Oh,
Coast
yeah,
Music, and he's my artist liaison for Sonar and Vic Firth and Zildjian and Remo and stuff. And he came over a week before the pandemic, and I was like, Scott is an amazing rudimental player. He played with the Kingston Grenadiers. He played with the
mm,
Smith Falls Drum Corps. He's got amazing hands. He writes drum corps music. So I was
cool.
like, Scott, you got to help me. So he came over and we went through Chuck's book, and he gave me some really good suggestions on how to modernize it.
Mm,
And I was like, well, I gotta reach out to somebody else because I originally I wanted to do it with Scott. I was like, Scott,
I
can
see.
you
Okay.
can you
Yeah,
edit
yeah,
it for me?
yeah.
But he's so busy, and he was so committed to Coast and to his other projects that he didn't really feel he could do it 110%. So
Mhm.
he's like, well, you gotta get somebody. And he recommended Matt. And I was like, I know Matt. That's great. I didn't know him personally at the time. And then I just reached out to him, and it was great. Matt was like, yeah, let's do it. So this is now the pandemic. COVID has hit. We're in 2020. And that kind of set, it was difficult. It was difficult to work, obviously. It was difficult
Yeah,
to get things done.
yeah.
Um, and then we kind of finalized a version with Dynamics because Chuck original book didn't have really dynamics.
Yeah, that's one thing. We're going to talk about the specifics, but yes, there are some things that
Yeah, and
change.
articulation, and then
Yeah.
we updated some of the passages, and I wrote some solos. And then I went to transcriber, a great transcriber. His name is Robin Petrie, and he transcribed the whole book for me. And it was kind of back and forth, just to making sure the edits were nice and clear.
Hmm.
And Matt's been was wonderful to work with. And then when I had the idea about the videos accompanying the book, Matt did a couple of them. He did about, I think, maybe 30 out of the 675 videos. And then I
Just
did the rest. I did the rest. And I did it over, let's say, a 6 to 7th month period.
Okay.
And then just putting them out on YouTube and whatnot. And then finally it came out in just this past September. Oh, and then obviously Hudson. I reached out to Joe.
That's the one that's interesting because of Hudson is
Yeah.
kind of the big company that we all look
Oh
up
my
to,
gosh.
the big drum books of we've all gone through. Talk to me about the association with Hudson.
Yeah. So I originally, like years ago, actually reached out to Dom Famularo, and
Yeah.
I sent him the book, and he was so wonderful. And I met Dom a couple of times. I don't think he remembered who I was, but I met him a couple of times. And he was such an inspirational man. Like
Yeah.
he was not my teacher, but I considered him one of my teachers.
No, but I think he had the same effect as Chuck did because we have in
Yeah.
Drumfills Cafe, we're gonna say hi to Joel, who was a Dom student, and when Dom passed away, he kind of expressed the same sentiment that we had for Chuck, with basically, which is he wasn't just a drum teacher, he was like a mentor
Yeah.
and someone you looked up to, and
Yeah.
I think like Chuck, I think Dom was very positive, of course,
Mhm.
never really put you down at all, had a way of saying things, and I think yeah. I think it's the same sentiment.
Yeah, yeah. So Dom, he got sick at the time he was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. So
Yeah.
he said, I don't have time for this right now, but maybe talk to Joe and see if he had any suggestions for you. So I reached out to Joe Rigamini, and he gave me some suggestions for editors and whatnot. And he was very, very nice. And they said, let me know when the book's done.
Cool.
So I just reached out to him. I was like, hey, Joe, would you provide a testimonial for me based on the book? And he's like, absolutely. So he sent me I sent him a
Yeah,
promo copy of the book, and he wrote me a nice testimonial. And
very
then he
nice.
said,
It's in the back of the book, of course, and you can
yeah,
read
yeah,
it.
yeah.
But, so yeah,
So yeah, he was just like, would you consider maybe allowing Hudson to be the digital distributor? And I was like, yes, no problem, done. Where do I sign?
I, you had me at Hudson.
Yeah, yeah. And it's awesome. Like, oh my god, I'm looking at my bookshelf of books right here, and like 90% of it is Hudson, right? So,
Exactly, that's what I'm saying.
yeah,
From I believe it's them that has Groove Essentials, and all the
Groove
books we've gone
Essentials.
through.
Oh my
So yeah,
gosh.
yeah. Very nice. Well, okay. Well, before we begin to get to the new version, I'm just going to show the old version to show people how much work you've done, because this is the old version that you probably still have a copy, and some of us still do. And it's a great book and everything. But it is photocopied. It's paper. So you bring that stuff on tour with you, and you got to be careful because eventually this kind of will break. And anyways, so it's a great book, but it's analog versus versus the thing you did. And of course, you can see sort of the, I'll show some pictures, clearer pictures, but you can kind of get the idea. And this is yours, of course, which is way more modernized.
Mhm.
And we're just going to go on the Hudson webpage, actually, and show people what we're talking about, and
Sure.
the QR codes and everything. So with the magic of the interwebs, let me share some, basically this. So if you go on Hudson, I hope everybody can see that. Let me just verify. Okay, so this is the front page of the book. You can get, of course, a e-version for just $20. Very cool. And then there's a bit of a preview at the bottom. And if we go through it, the first thing you did is kind of did the levels. So level 1, beginner,
Mhm.
intermediate, which wasn't in the original one, I believe. That wasn't
No.
something that was made in the original. So that's very cool. And then as we go through it, of course, do some introductions. You're talking about that method that you're talking about the scaffolding. Very cool. And I do want to go through that quote. And I don't remember this quote, but Chuck used to say, "Play what you mean what you play." I don't remember
Mhm.
him saying that quote, but it's cool that you put it in there. Interesting.
Yeah, yeah, it's just something that he would always, Chuck was kind of like a, less is more
Yeah,
kind of a person in terms of
yeah.
like, I'd always send him my recordings whenever I did anything and be like, "Hey,
Oh,
Chuck, let me know
nice,
what you think,"
nice.
And he was so positive. He'd
Mhm.
always give me constructive feedback, but in a way, it's like, it was super super good, but maybe try to do this. He'd be like, you know, um, your group is a little bit behind the beat in this section.
Oh,
I would try to make sure that you're in line with the bass player more. Maybe think about changing your bass drum pattern to match the bass player a little bit more. Try more intensity here, and then
mhm.
he would say the good stuff.
I see.
This
That's
is what
nice,
you did
nice.
well.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
because we learn best through critical feedback,
yeah.
right? It's that instantaneous feedback that will never replace um, a teacher-student relationship.
Mm,
Right. And one of the things that I wanted to do with the book as well is to give that critical reflection through the videos, meaning that if I'm playing with the video and I'm not lining up with the video, I play something incorrectly, maybe with you're doing it with the counting and our counting doesn't line up, that's critical reflection. That's the feedback that goes, oh, I did something wrong.
mm, mhm,
Right.
mhm,
So
mm,
so then, the user, the learner can go back and try to isolate what they did wrong by watching the videos and through modeling.
mhm.
That's another educational concept where you're basically just looking at the video, looking at the music, because the music's on the YouTube videos.
Yeah.
And listening to it to try to figure out where you went wrong.
No, for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
What you hear in the practice space versus when it's recorded, yeah, there's a big, there's a big
Big difference.
difference.
Big difference.
So you talk about all the intros. Thank you for that. And of course, you break down, which was in the original book, but I think this is much better explained. Of because some people will never have done rudimental stuff, so you take the time to basically
Mm.
explain the sticking and where the accents land and all that stuff. So I think that's pretty cool. So of course, 7-stroke roll, it goes all through the different kind of rolls. Compound meters, of course, you go through that. So you've got sort of a primer basically to get you going
Mhm.
as you start the book. Now, of course, this isn't the first
No.
um, solo. This is just a preview. But the thing I noticed that was really cool is that now every solo has a duet compared to the old book.
Yeah, most of them do. There are a couple like Shake Well, which is on the second page there, doesn't have a duet,
Yeah,
but if I had to estimate it, I'd probably say about 90% of the solos have
as have
duets
the
in it.
duets, yeah,
Yeah.
which is really cool. And when you talk about the QR code, you're talking about this code here.
Yeah.
So you would basically, as we all do, just take your phone, basically scan the QR code, and it'll bring you to the video in question on YouTube so you can see it. And this is crazy in incrementals of 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, and up to the 100 BPM, which
Mhm.
is what most of the solos on the book are quoted at for the speeds.
Yeah,
So
the
that's,
first one is always with me counting,
yeah,
on a practice pad without dynamics. So you're focusing just on the sticking, the articulation, and the reading. And then it goes with me on a snare drum and it goes in small increments all the way up to the performance tempo. So it scaffolds the learner from understanding the basic solo at a very slow tempo all the way to the performance tempo.
yeah, yeah. I will do an insert about that later on, but that's what it is. So that's very cool. Like you say, it helps you because there were weeks where I'd come in and I hadn't read correctly
Mhm. Yes,
the
yes.
solo, and I was like, oh, sorry, and I had to take notes. And no, this is in 3 or whatever it was. So, and then it just, I hope the preview throws it. Oh, sorry. But you see here, there's basically a part 1, and usually you would see a part 2
Mhm.
to one of the solos. And the other thing that you did, like you said, is dynamics, which wasn't there much into the original book. Talk to me about how you just discovered or decided to put those dynamics. Were you playing through the solos to figure that out?
Yeah, well, that was something that when I met with Scott, before the pandemic started, and it was literally a week before.
Oh,
We sat down and I was like, what should I do? Like what can I add to the book to make it even better than it is? And it was the one thing that he said is like, we got to add articulation, you got to add dynamics and dynamic
okay,
markings and
okay,
various dynamic markings to bring the user to, to understand the full scope of the dynamic spectrum.
yeah.
And that's what I did. So Matt really helped me a lot with the dynamics. I had some ideas, and then he would kind of correct it for me,
I see. Okay.
along with some of the articulation. But yeah.
Very cool. So yeah, and as we said prior to getting to talk about this book, there were some errors,
Yes. Yes.
sticking errors, and I'll take an example here because it's one of my favorites. I hope to find it here, but I think it's Ole, and Ole at some point had like three lefts, and then there was one part where basically I don't know what happened, but he kept these sort of strike through and then
Mhm.
and then wrote over an R sort of thing. And some stickings or sort of didn't fit into the bar. So talk about fixing those errors into the new version of the book.
Sure. And respectfully, there wasn't that many errors.
No. I'm not saying it
Yeah.
was like very minor, but it
Oh,
was
totally. I totally
but
get
it
it.
was
But
one
like,
of those kookiness of the book that you're like, oh, that's pretty cool. Yeah.
it did, and it's kind of like I remember like asking Chuck, I'm like, how do I play this? And he'd be
Yeah.
like, well, it's just this, and he would play it because he had great hands.
Yeah.
But it didn't feel natural, and
Yeah.
that
I see
was
yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
yeah, and it might have been something that he came across when he was writing and performing with drum corps when he was younger. But I didn't find it very easy to play, and I found it really kind of threw off the phrasing a little bit.
Yeah.
So Matt kind of highlighted some other sections, as well, just to change some sticking patterns. And there was one. What was the solo? Slash and run. I don't know if you remember that one. It's only like 8 bars or something like that. It's not a very long solo, but the last line, was always awkward for me to play, and it felt like it didn't fit the rest of the solo. So
Yeah.
Matt was just like, "Oh, I want to do this instead," and what he did was just perfect. It was like, "Oh my gosh, that's amazing! I love it." Right. So with Matt's experience and with his influence and whatnot, he was able to kind of like really help me bring the book to just a better format. Yeah, and the other thing too, like the digital copy is amazing with Hudson.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to do for the physical copy
Go
is
ahead.
Chuck's book is pretty small. It's only 8.5 by 11, and we were talking about Hudson about Groove Essentials, which is one of my favorite books. I
Yes.
love Tommy Igo, and he
But yeah,
has
just
the bigger version,
yeah,
right? So it's
just compare the original versus
yeah,
the
9 by
older
12.
version. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I have a lot of students that are older too, like I'm all the way up to like I think my oldest student is I think he's 78 right now,
Oh wow.
and
Nice.
he's wonderful. I think he's 78. Henry, don't get mad at me if
He's a
I
young man. He's a young man.
if you're 56, I'm going to be in a lot of trouble. But anyway,
Don't fish.
oh, he's great. I love Henry. So, but I wanted to create something that was easy for people to read, right?
Right.
And 8.5 by 11, you have like the small stickings,
It is, yes.
and I wanted to do something that was bigger. Now it does cost me a lot more money to print this, but I think that it's worth it because I want to, not only honor Chuck's memory, but I
Yeah.
want to, offer something substantial to the drumming pedagogy that can last, and has purpose, right? So I wanted it spiral bound so it can lay flat on a music stand. And I wanted it in a bigger size, just so the ease of reading is just a lot easier. And like
Yeah.
when you're looking at the duets as well, like the duets are on opposite pages, right? So
Yes, yes, exactly. Some of them,
you
yeah, I
can lay it
know.
on there and perform
Yeah.
it for teachers. You can perform it with your students, or if
Yeah.
students have another drumming buddy, they can use the same book type thing.
That's true because sometimes, like for instance, simple or shoot, parts one, part two were separate. They were
They were separate in his book.
separate
Yeah.
pages. So you would have something like shoot, you would have something like this on the one, but you had to, and it continues on this side, but then you have to turn the page to get to number two. And yeah, I see what you mean. That's That's actually it's so simple, but it's smart. Yeah, it makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah. And again, like as you were saying too, like, I redid the order of the book too, because Chuck would kind of run through the book. He'd be like, "You're on page 12," and he'd be like, "Okay, you've done that solo. Now you're going to be on page 22." And it's like,
No,
"Oh,
no,
what
I
happens
know,
in between here?"
I know.
So, yeah, I actually like went through the book and like just outlined in terms of difficulty. So these are good for beginner,
Yeah,
intermediate, and advanced students.
and yeah, because there's sometimes like I come back to LA or easy sometimes the stuff at the second part of easy was like, oh, okay, this isn't
Oh
difficult, but it's
yeah.
hard to read, and it's like, and he's like, no,
Mhm.
no, you're there, and I'm like, okay, so yeah, I see what you mean. Very nice, very nice. Cool. So yes, so let's just very quickly reshare. So if people are interested, it's available at Hudson. Again, here at Hudson, uh, which I'll put the link, Rudimental Blueprint. Sorry. There's of course other merch which is not pertinent to you, but you can see, of course, the descriptions, how it's made up, basically, a bit of the bio of you and Chuck, and all the information basically to the book. So I would entice people to go check it out for sure, for sure. So I'll
Mhm.
stop sharing.
Yeah. The
And
physical copies on, Amazon as well.
yeah, on Amazon, which I will
Yeah,
put a
yeah.
link to that as well. Now, what's been the response? I'm curious. What's been the response so far, since because it's kind of recent?
It
Have you
is, yes,
tested out
it's
with your students, people from different drum companies, drum communities? Sorry.
yeah, yeah, so the response has been great. It's like any industry, the publishing industry is going through some changes, obviously.
Yeah.
So it and, because the book is more expensive for me to print, because I wanted to have the nice copy, the bigger, so it's harder to kind of make a dent in the industry. So, right now, my focus is really trying to get it into universities,
Ah, nice, nice.
colleges,
Okay.
and get it to different teachers. So I've been sending promo copies to most university teachers in Canada, and they really enjoy it. John Wooten has also wrote a nice testimonial,
Hmm.
and I love John Wooten. He's such a nice guy, and he's a monster player. Everybody should buy John Wooten stuff. Um, but it's also, it is getting nice compliments from certain industry people and whatnot. I just got a review in Modern Drummer
You did,
for
yes.
the November issue, which was really, really nice. Next, I'm really working on working with Long and McQuaid. Long and McQuaid's been fantastic. It's been various locations in Long and McQuaid. I'm trying to get it into the Toronto area for Long and McQuaid, but right now
Right.
it's available in Cornwall, Kingston, all the locations within the Ottawa area. It's also
Mhm.
available at Dave's Drum Shop in Ottawa, and Dave Dudley is a godsend for all drummers in the world.
Love
Um,
Dave. Dave.
he's the best. He's the
Love
best.
Dave. Dave sold me my first Ludwig Superphonic back in the day
Oh
for like
yeah, that's
for like
awesome.
for like
That's
300 bucks,
awesome.
and he's like, you should get this. I'm like, okay, if you say so, and I thank him to this day.
Oh yeah, yeah, he's great. I actually just bought another kit through Dave, so uh, so
Let's not go there. That could do another interview right there. But yes.
yeah,
But hello, Dave. Yes, continue. Yes.
yeah, Dave's awesome.
Yes.
And just like trying to work with like just figures within the drumming industry to try to
Right.
get the book, to be used at a a wider range and whatnot. So I have different ambitions that I'm going to be kind of working with. I'd love to apply for a workshop with PASIC. Also,
Mm.
the
Mhm.
different provinces have different music educators thing, because I've been in education my whole life, teaching and at Carleton, and then now being a professor and a coordinator at Algonquin College. I really want to make this a text to be used with a lot of educational facilities, and I think it's great that a lot of music teachers struggle with drum set exercises for their students, particularly learning how to play roles and whatnot. So
Okay.
I think this could be a great text for different schools, high schools, particularly, obviously drum corps is huge in the States. It's not as recognized in Canada.
No, sadly, I know, and that's one
Yeah,
of the downsides because I think had we been more exposed to it, if it hadn't been for Chuck, I wouldn't have been exposed to rudimental stuff, and I
yeah.
I love this stuff ever
Oh,
since we
it's so
started
much
it.
fun.
So yeah,
So much
yeah,
fun.
yeah,
Yeah. So working with maybe looking at state competitions and trying to get the book
nice, nice.
in one of the requirements for state competitions in terms of repertoire. But then
Mm.
each province has their own music educators conference. So next year I'm going to apply for the Ontario Music Conference, and if I can, I'm going to love to bring Matt up to talk about the
Mm.
book as well.
Mm.
And that's kind of like where I'm looking at going right now. I'd love to get the book into Guitar Center. If anybody knows anybody at Guitar Center, please let me know. But I
Jeff.
think like pedagogically, I think it's just a great way to introduce students to this style of drumming and to challenge them enough and to give them enough scaffolding where music teachers don't necessarily have to be at the back of the room to help the drummers understand roles and understand rhythms and stickings and dynamics, articulation, and whatnot. This book kind
Mm.
of does it all. And those videos act as an educator that's sitting beside the student, helping them progress to the next step, right? And there's lots of videos, right? There's 675 videos that come
That
with
to
the
me
book.
is just crazy that you did 600 some videos. That must
It
have
was a
been
lot.
quite a lot of work, my friend.
It's a lot of work, and then editing alone, took me such a long time
Yeah,
to try to figure it out and do all that kind of fun stuff. So
yeah,
yeah, it was very much like a do-it-yourself type project for me, but it helped me understand certain different opportunities that are available within publishing, right?
yeah.
So I'm working on two other books that Chuck wrote. So one of them was a sticking book. So you remember the mobility book?
Yes, the
Um,
mobility book is downstairs, and I
yeah,
had, I pulled out some. I think the reading material that's I had basically to help to basically just understand, what's a 16th, what's a triplet, and all that stuff. Yeah, yeah,
it kind of like that book's great because like I love Syncopation by Ted Reed. It's obviously a drumming Bible for us, but it doesn't have a lot of different partials of sixteenths and triplets,
no,
and Chuck's book does, right? So
mm,
that does help students understand different partials of sixteenth and triplet rhythms.
yeah,
And it does a lot of mixed rhythms too, right? So Chuck's book obviously goes more into triplets and 16-note triplets mixed with 16th notes, eighth notes, and chord notes.
mm.
And the syncopation book doesn't really get into those types of combinations. But yeah, that's another one too. But I haven't even started looking at
No,
that one yet.
and it's but the other thing I love about the rudimental stuff, this book that you just did, is that at the top of it, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is what the idea was, is that when you would do the original book, you'd be okay. This is a 5, and then a 9, and I'm doing a 13. Then there's a flam, tap, and blah blah blah. But you're at the top of the page explaining that these are the rudiments you'll be doing into the solo. So I say solo number 9. Basically, there's a flam, Swiss Army triplet, and a flam paradiddle. That's way at the top here that explains what kind of rudiments you'll be doing. So I think that's pretty cool. Am I correct? Was that the
Yeah,
idea?
so Matt and I did that through solos numbers 1 through 10.
Yeah.
And we did that more for an educator's
Mm.
standpoint to kind of look at the complexity of a solo, but also identify the different rudiments that are in the solo to
Yeah,
test the student on.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And yes, number 9 is one of those where you're like, damn it.
Such a fun one. I love that one. That's what I played in the clinic. Yeah, yeah.
I know. No, I know. I love it too. But there's a couple of things. Anyways, I entice people to go check them out and you'll say okay. But it's good. It's a good challenge. Jeff, this is an amazing man. I wish you seriously all the best with this book. It's crazy how much work you put into it. I wish you all the best. I think I think you're pretty much the guy to continue the Chuck legacy, if you will. So I think you'd be very, very pleased, young man, as you would say,
Thank you. Thank you, young
with
man. Yeah.
with your work, and just amazing. And I wish you all the best. And yes, go check it out. I'll put some links in the description. And anything else you would like to say about the book or education? What's your favorite? How about this? What's your favorite solo? And what's your and basically, what was the hardest thing to make the book?
What was the hardest thing to what? Sorry.
What was the hardest thing besides the videos? But let's start with what's your favorite solo?
My
If you had to pick
favorite
one,
solo. That is such a good question. Um,
top of your
you
head.
know, I could really like Olay.
Yeah, me
Olay,
too.
moving out. Gary is a really good one.
Mm.
I know I did Gary, I think, for my graduating recital at Carleton University.
Oh, cool, nice.
Yeah, yeah. But it's funny. So you and I, we both learned it with the original publication through Chuck
Yes.
without the articulation, the
No.
dynamics. When
No.
I when we added it with Matt, I had to relearn the book
Yeah.
because just those added elements change everything.
Yeah.
Obviously you have to look at stick height and whatnot, and the different types of strokes that you're playing to understand the dynamics. And that, took me, a couple of weeks to kind of go through the book again, and be able to play them all the way up to tempo, right? So, but those Gary is definitely one of my favorites for
Mm.
sure. The
But
hardest one to record was probably like Balance Point, which I think is the last solo in the book, and
yeah,
it's so fast.
I've
It is.
I've never tried that one, but every time I looked at it, I was like, that looks cool, and I'm like, that looks hard too.
It's really hard, but it's so much fun. Like, my really got my hands together, right? So I have two kids. I have other responsibilities. So like,
Right.
I play drums every single day, but I don't necessarily, practice the hard stuff, the rudimental solos, right?
You keep in
So
shape. You
like,
keep in shape. Yeah.
I keep in shape. I keep in
Yeah.
shape, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because like I'm playing this book like every day with my students, right? So,
Yeah.
and I have been, since I started taking lessons with Chuck. The rudimental solos is a huge part of my curriculum as well.
For sure.
Um, but like being able to do this beyond, what my students are able to do and up to the performance tempo, like it took some practice, which was great because it was just something I needed in my life at that point. And yeah, feel that need to be challenged and
Yeah. Yeah.
wanna
Yeah. And
wanna
then that
thrive
feeling of
it.
like, oh my God, I've actually gone through it and got it. Yeah, I know what
Oh
you
yeah.
mean.
It was such
Yeah,
an accomplishment. Well,
for
once I
sure.
nailed like Balance Point, like, I was just like, I threw my sticks in the air. I was like, yeah, like it's like party time.
I'm rudimental. God.
Yeah, no kidding. It's such a sense of accomplishment. But yeah,
But
but
I know what you mean. Yeah, I know what you mean.
and there
Yeah.
is another book, another rudimental book that I'm working on right now too. That was written by Chuck. I'm not doing as much. I'm not going to add anything probably to that book. I'm just going to
Okay.
honor what Chuck wrote, but I did change some passages. But it's more advanced than this book.
Is it this one here? Is it the
That's it.
yeah,
That's it.
which I've never really actually touched. I'm sorry. I'm
It's a
sorry, Chuck,
great book.
but
It's
I've never
so
really touched.
hard.
Yeah, I should. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so hard. So it's like the accomplished what's the John Pratt one? Accomplished rudimental solos, I think
Okay.
is the name of the book. It's kind of like that kind of vein, that kind of difficulty, which is,
Okay.
John Pratt's one of my favorite authors too. So yeah.
Cool. We'll stop there. I thank you so much for your time, man. Congratulations again. And like I was trying to say before these last questions, I think Chuck would be very proud. Be telling you thank you, young man. And yeah, thank you man, for continuing this legacy. And I hope people get into it because I, like you, yes, I'm biased. Yes, I took lessons for Chuck, but I think this is great stuff and it needs to be more out there and people need to check it out. So,
Thank you
yeah.
very much. Thanks. It's great to see you.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Jeff. All the best. If anybody wants to check out Jeff and wants lessons with Jeff or check out the book, where can they reach you?
So you can reach me through my publishing company, which is just ja/publications.com. You can find me on social media as well. Just type in Jeff Asselin. There's a bunch of stuff there. And yeah, it's probably the easiest way to get in touch with me. And if you're interested in the book, Hudson, which is great, that's your digital copy, and then Amazon for the physical
Fan-
copy.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Or basically Long McWade or Dave's Drum Shop if you're
Yeah.
in the area, if you want a
Yeah.
copy. So awesome, Jeff. Thanks so much. Yeah, all the best, man. All the best. I'm gonna go practice after we're done here. And I don't know if I'll try Balance Point, but I'll try to get there. I'll try to get there. And I'll probably call you.
Work up to it.
Work up to it. I'll scaffold my to get to there. There you go. All the best, Jeff. Thanks so much. And best success to you, man.
Great. Thank you so much. Take care, everybody.
Good job. There you go. That's the episode for tonight. Thanks so much for being with us. Go check out the book, Rudimental Blueprint. And of course, thanks so much for Jess for taking the time of explaining that book and all the best to him. Until then, come back next week for another episode. Ciao, ciao.